What's going on, guys? Welcome back to #AskGSM. Here today, episode 336 for Wednesday, May 6, 2020. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. I know the episode is going up a little later than usual today, but that's because I had an awesome interview earlier this afternoon with someone that I know you guys all know. And that interview will be up on Friday in article form. So stay tuned for the official announcement coming tomorrow on the socials. It's going to be up on Wrestle Rant Radio in audio form next Thursday. All I'll say for right now is that it's one of the most fun interviews I've ever done. It went great. It was really, really fun. So stay tuned for that tomorrow on the socials. It's going to be up in article form on Bleacher Report on Friday and in audio form, as I said earlier, on Wrestle Rant Radio next Thursday. This Thursday is my interview with Eddie Mansfield. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because he was a very big part of last week's episode of Dark Side of the Ring. So stay tuned for that tomorrow on Wrestle Rant Radio. Anyway, if you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Leave a question on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video, and I'll include your question in next week's edition. So without further ado, let's get started here first with Joe M. His first two questions from YouTube. First one being, much like you, I started watching WWE full-time in 2008. Around the time where Jeff Hardy was basically the hottest thing in the company, and his chase for the WWE title was the first storyline I remember really getting hooked on. In fact, even though it's not talked up as much as his WWE Championship win at Armageddon, it's up there as one of my favorite, most memorable moments watching. At the time, I still had a kayfabe mindset, so when Matt turned on him and cost him the championship shortly after, I was invested in it. But in hindsight, I think, why the hell did they do that? Do you remember what you thought about it at the time? I'm very glad you said that. First of all, that's a great question, and I love anything relative to when I first started watching in 2008. Because, yeah, you think about it, how you looked at it back then, and then how you look at it now. So at the time, yes, I really remember watching that. I was more attached to Raw than I was to SmackDown back in 2008, but I still followed SmackDown very, intently, whatever. I watched that every week. I remember the Jeff Hardy storyline. I didn't remember whether it was real or fake with he got injured in the stairwell at Survivor Series. I thought that was real. I thought all the accidents that were happening, like the pyro, I thought that was real too. Obviously it wasn't. And then they revealed that it was Matt Hardy. At the time, what I thought about it was, oh man, I was shocked. I was shocked when Matt turned on Jeff at the Royal Rumble. I didn't watch the Royal Rumble. I didn't buy pay-per-views back then. I was way too young, and my parents would never buy those for me. For the most part, they did allow me to buy a Night of Champions pay-per-view here and there, and then a Royal Rumble here and there. For the most part, though, I never bought them. Didn't buy that pay-per-view. I watched it, or I saw it after the fact on the WWE.com results, and it was oh, that's weird. Matt Hardy was just in an ECW championship match earlier on in the show with Jack Swagger. And then I remember, not loving the feud, not hating the feud. Actually, that was around the time I became a big Matt Hardy fan. I would become a fan of his later for different reasons, more personally related and whatever, more personally driven. But as a character, I really liked the heel Matt character. So actually, I liked the feud. Looking back on it, I totally agree. I think it was a dumb idea because people never really want to see the Hardy Boys feud. They're more of we would rather see them team. Not their feud in 01, not their feud in 09, not their feud in Impact Wrestling. Never at any point have fans wanted to see Matt and Jeff feud. I don't know. They've had good feuds. They've had some really, really good matches in Impact and in WWE. But they've always been far better as a team than they ever were as rivals. So yeah, in retrospect, I think it was a dumb idea. But to be fair, the only reason why they did it, I remember reading back then, because I did follow the dirt sheets, yet I still thought a lot of what I was watching was real. So anyway, with the Matt and Jeff thing, I remember reading at that time and reading well after the fact that Christian had just come back to WWE. I remember seeing the very tail end of his TNA run in 2008. And I remember reading that he was due to come back at the Rumble and was supposed to interfere in that Jeff Edge match and cost, Jeff Hardy the championship. It would have made sense, because he would have helped Edge maintain the WWE title or win the WWE Championship. I think Jeff was champion going into that show. And that would have kicked off Jeff Hardy and Christian going into WrestleMania. I don't know what they would have done with Matt. They probably would have put him in some fucking battle royal or something. They probably wouldn't have cared because he was on ECW at the time. So it really did feel random that they had, Matt turn on him out of nowhere because Matt was on a different show. He was a babyface at the time. The whole storyline was, I was in your shadow and, whatever. He was the ECW champion. So it's not like, Jeff Hardy's the WWE champion and Matt Hardy's mediocre. Like, he was the top guy in ECW. He was their top babyface for a while there. And they had to bring Christian in to replace Hardy as the face of ECW. So it seems a little too weird that they shifted Matt into that spot when it very easily could have been Christian feuding with Jeff in the first place. And I think I think it would have been Edge and Triple H again. I thought was the original plan for WrestleMania. I don't know if it was always supposed to be Edge, John Cena, and Big Show. It seems very random in retrospect when you think about it. I thought it was supposed to be Edge and Triple H faced Orton, so I think that was always set in stone no matter what. Maybe it was supposed to be Edge. Maybe not Edge and Matt Hardy. That seems a little random. I'm not sure what the other match would have been. Maybe Edge, Jeff, and Christian in like a triple threat or something, because Matt being in that picture seemed very random. I think at one point John Cena was supposed to face Batista. So maybe it was supposed to be, I don't know, maybe it was supposed to be John Cena, Batista. Big Show would not have been a part of the picture, of course. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. In retrospect, yes, it was a dumb idea. I did like Matt at the time. I liked the feud for the most part. The matches were really good. I thought Matt and Jeff had one of the more underrated matches in recent WrestleMania history at WrestleMania 25 in that no DQ match, where Matt won, which was huge. Didn't really go anywhere. He got hurt soon after. But I did like the match, and I just don't really think it was a great idea in hindsight. They probably should have just kept Jeff in the World Championship picture, because he ended up going back after the World Heavyweight Championship that summer. So why even bother interrupting it? They should have just done Jeff and Edge at WrestleMania instead of, Jeff and Edge at the Rumble, or Jeff and Edge at fucking Judgment Day, or One Night Stand, or whatever the pay-per-view was at that point. It is a little weird in retrospect. Joe's second question, what happened to John Morrison in 2011? I know everyone says it was the thing with Snooki at WrestleMania, but right after that, he was inserted into the WWE Championship picture. And then I remember he got injured, and then they jobbed him out when he came back. Do you think he stands a chance of finally becoming a world champion once his team with The Miz runs its course? I don't. I don't think they brought back Morrison to be a main event guy. And I'm a big Morrison fan. I really am a fan of Morrison. I don't think he should be a main event guy. Now, that being said, SmackDown needs main event talent, so I wouldn't complain about it. But I think the time for Morrison to be a world champion, at least in WWE, has come and gone. He was a world champion, like it was the face of Impact for a few years, the few years he was there for. He was the face of Lucha Underground for a while. He was the top champion over there. He was the top champion in AAA. WWE is a different beast, though. They just have far more people I would rather see the championship on. Now, I would be a hypocrite if you mentioned Jeff Hardy, and I would say, I would rather see Jeff Hardy as champion, but John Morrison, like his time has come and gone. I feel like there's just a lot more desire for fans to see Jeff as champion one more time than John Morrison. I don't see a lot of people clamoring for a John Morrison World Championship run. Now, I know you are. I like John Morrison. I would not hate that at all. I just don't think that's the role they brought him back for. I think, if anything, he would be upper mid-card at best. And yeah, he was in the WWE Championship picture in 2011. You're right. It wasn't the Snooki thing. That did get him heat because he wanted Melina in the match. I think he's outright admitted this in the past. That he wanted Melina in the match, and Melina was nowhere near being that important at the time, so I don't really get that part of it. But, they were dating. He wanted Melina in the match. He felt that Snooki, and specifically Trish, were taking Melina's spot. And that's why he was pissed, and he kind of stiffed Trish at WrestleMania when he was like, they were celebrating. He didn't even acknowledge her, I guess. It's pretty apparent if you go back and watch it on the network. But anyway, you're right. That wasn't like, let's end his push there, because he was in. Like, they were pushing him before that, too, if you can recall. He won that big match against Sheamus at TLC and Survivor Series. Went for the WWE Championship on the first episode of Raw in 2011, had a good showing in the Royal Rumble, had a very good showing in Elimination Chamber, won at WrestleMania, was in the main event of Extreme Rules for the WWE Championship, and as you mentioned, he got hurt. He came back, had this good little return run, and then he lost to R-Truth. Yeah, they jobbed him out every week. They gave him a brief little push towards the end there for the United States Championship. Never won it, but he went for it at Survivor Series. And then that was it. They never really, and then he left right after that. So, I don't know whose coffee he pissed in mid-2011 to get that treatment when he came back. But in 2020, do I want to see John Morrison as world champion? It's not something I'm overly anticipating. It would be nice because SmackDown needs top talent. They have Bray. They have Braun. I just got done talking about this with RJ. Roman Reigns is out for right now. They could push Nakamura and Cesaro, but they're so damaged. And not to say that John Morrison isn't damaged, because he came back with a lot of momentum earlier this year, and he has kind of lost that a little bit since then. But they were SmackDown Tag Team Champions. He's not losing to fucking he is losing to Lucha House Party, I guess. But not in singles action. It's all tag team matches, So, there is something still there with John Morrison. I think Jeff makes more sense at this point, to be in that spot more so than John Morrison. Sheamus is another guy I wouldn't mind getting another run with the World Championship at some point. But anyway, I don't think it's going to happen. I would rather see him and Miz continue teaming for the foreseeable future. They very well may split up sooner rather than later, just because they've already gone for the belts, they've already held the belts, they've already feuded with New Day. How much more can they really do in such a depleted division, So maybe they split up on the nearer side in the not so distant future, and we see them feud for a little bit with Morrison. Probably, I would assume, as a babyface. They could turn Miz too, but we just saw him as a face like a year ago, not even. So I would turn, Morrison face, have them feud, have Morrison probably win if you want to give him some momentum. And then, again, maybe upper mid-card in the IC Championship picture. Him and Zayn would be fun. Him and Daniel Bryan could be fun. I think they had a one-off match on Raw one time many years ago, like a decade ago. But as far as main event World Championship material, he is, but I just don't see that happening in 2020. At Iwagu91, why do you think Byron Saxton appears to be not liked by his fellow commentators despite being a babyface? And of course, it's all in kayfabe. He explained that in his next tweet, that he meant kayfabe, not in real life. It's because Byron comes across as such a goddamn goof. And listen, I'm sure Byron is the nicest guy in the world. And hey, I'm not saying that it wouldn't be the same way if I was a WWE commentator. You guys know I'm a mark through and through. So I'm sure I would be the exact same way. But it does not make him look cool, doesn't make him look credible. It just makes him come across as incredibly annoying and obnoxious. Like, as soon as I saw he was involved in that Newly Bros segment on NXT last week, I almost changed the channel. The segment itself was fine, but like anything involving Byron is ultimately cringeworthy. He is the definition of cringeworthy, is Byron Saxton. As a commentator, he's okay. He's improved, but he's also been around a decade, and he's not that much better now than he was 10 years ago. He's just kind of sort of there. So it's probably because he comes across as such like a big idiot sometimes. He's like, give me a hell yeah, Stone Cold. Like, Corey Graves has that cool factor about him. He's typically like the modern day Michael Cole. Michael Cole would do the same stuff, a couple of years ago. He acted cool. Like, anytime Michael Cole endorsed something, it automatically became uncool. He doesn't really do that anymore. He's much more of a straightforward commentator, which I appreciate. We need more of that with Byron. If he's more straightforward and less goofy, then probably I can take him seriously, as his fellow commentators will as well. Until then, though, I will continue to tune him out whenever he's on commentary, because he's just not that good. Let's see. At Iwagu91's next question, did you know that 2006 was the last time Kurt Angle was a heel in the WWE? I mean, of course it is, because he hasn't been a heel since he came back. So it would have to be 2006, at least since the last time he was a heel in WWE. He was a heel a bunch in TNA for a while, a number of different times. But as far as WWE, that doesn't really surprise me, just because he hasn't been a heel since he came back 3 years ago. His third question, where does Eddie Guerrero's last heel turn rank among your favorite heel turns? I don't really remember the turn itself back in 2005. Obviously, I wasn't watching at that point, so that's probably why. I know he was a face at WrestleMania. I feel like he turned heel right before Judgment Day, if I'm not mistaken. I remember watching that Judgment Day pay-per-view, and I think Eddie was already a heel by that point. Again, I could be wrong. Pretty sure he was already a heel if he didn't turn heel in that match. I can't rank the heel turn itself, because there's been a lot of great heel turns in the last, just recent memory alone. I thought Finn Balor's in NXT was amazing. And there's more even just beyond that. But in terms of heel runs, again, I can't really rank it among my favorites because I wasn't watching at that point. I'm not really personally connected to it the same way I would be like with Matt Hardy's, like I talked about earlier when he went heel back in early 2009, because I was watching at that point. His heel run itself I thought was great. He kind of turned face towards the end there in the storyline with Batista. But the Rey Mysterio feud I thought was great. They had a lot of good matches. The segments were very memorable, if nothing else. The whole, custody of Dominic storyline and everything else. So, I think it's a great heel run. It's not among my favorites or anything. But I think it is a more underappreciated heel run because he did a lot of great work. And Eddie was one of the few performers who could be such a great babyface and get you to cheer him as a face, but also get the fans to boo the shit out of him whenever he was a heel. He could be such a great heel and so detestable and unlikable and hateable as a heel, yet so beloved as a babyface. Very few performers can say that. At E13A from Twitter, his question was, is AJ Styles a ghost? Well, if he is a ghost, then we're going to have to bring in the Ghostbusters now, won't we? At RJ_Marceau, Mr. Marceau from the Twitter machine, his first question, or only question is, what was the purpose of Zelina Vega's stable if they were just going to get buried on Raw? RJ and I have talked about this extensively in the last month. I like the stable. I've said that before here on the show. I like the trio of Austin Theory, Andrade, and Angel Garza. It doesn't help, though, that they've been made out to look like complete losers for the better part of the past, 2-3 weeks now. They lose almost every single time they're on TV. Austin Theory and Angel Garza lost on Monday. Andrade barely beat Apollo Crews last week just because Apollo got hurt. So was it really a win? Before that, they lost in six-man tag team action. Before that, they lost in six-man tag team action on the post-WrestleMania Raw to, Bianca Belair and the Street Profits. Maybe it was the week after Raw, the night after WrestleMania, whatever. And then, what was the other one? Austin Theory lost to Aleister Black. Angel Garza lost to Drew McIntyre. Andrade lost to Drew McIntyre. They lose far more than they win. And they've only been around a month. But they're like the modern day, albeit better, League of Nations, in that they were merely put together to put over other people. At this point, I would rather see Zelina just manage one person. Ditch Austin Theory, kick him right back down to NXT. I like Austin Theory, but it's way too soon, especially if they're just going to be fucking buried like this. And I don't use the word buried lightly. RJ knows this. You guys know that. But they're not buried, I'll put it that way. But they're getting close to that point with how much they've been losing lately. At this point, just pair Zelina with, Angel Garza or Andrade. I would rather see your team with Angel Garza and then have Andrade go babyface. That's what I would like to see. Or vice versa. Either way, they got to be split up. Because if they're just going to be put together to lose, it ain't doing anyone any favors. John Ritland from the YouTube machine. Real Honesty with John Ritland. Check out his show. Check out his channel. Great stuff. At Reborn Again. His first question was, so this whole not showing Roman Reigns in the WrestleMania 31 footage on Raw thing is a work, or are they legit mad? It seems awfully weird they'd omit him. I don't think it's a work, first of all. I don't think they're doing all this so he can come back and say, you forgot about me, blah, blah, blah. I don't really put too much stock into the theory that they're trying to bury Roman Reigns or that, he has heat with the company. I don't think that's the case at all. For a fact, the moment Roman Reigns comes back, he's being put in the Universal Championship picture. I will eat my hat if he doesn't. Remember this clip. I'd be shocked. Maybe not immediately, but soon after, he is going to that Universal Championship. It's almost a guarantee. What do you think, he's going to be brought back to lose to Titus O'Neil in main event? No chance. No chance. The only reason, they kind of went out of their way to take him out of the footage for WrestleMania 31. I don't know why. It seems very bizarre. At this point, we're just going to have Seth Rollins as part of the Shield, not Roman Reigns. If they keep up this treatment of Roman Reigns, omitting him from certain video packages and whatnot, and then Dean Ambrose is gone. They've already done that with him for the past year. So at this point, Rollins will be remembered as the only member of the Shield. But in all seriousness, though, I will say they're probably doing it just to make you not think of Roman. He was in the WrestleMania video package. If they were that petty, then they wouldn't have shown him in the video package for WrestleMania 36. And he's still in the opening intro for the shows. Like, they're not completely erasing him. So the notion that he's being buried or that they hate Roman is completely ridiculous. I did notice that he was omitted from the video package. I did think that was weird. I wouldn't really put too much stock into it until we hear more credible reports that they just don't want to mention him or that he's being buried or whatever. Because again, for a fact, as soon as he gets back, as he probably should, because from a storyline standpoint it would make sense, that he's going to be gunning for that Universal Championship because he didn't get a shot at WrestleMania. His second question, What are some heel turns that you thought would work but didn't, and what ones did you think wouldn't work but did? That's a great question. I can't really think of many off the top of my head. It would take a while in order to think of some, but I did jot down a few, like 3 here. And they're all modern ones, I know. One of them is Bayley. That's one I thought could work, because we've been saying for a long time her character is stagnant, try something new. I was very excited when she went heel. So far, it just ain't working. The whole role model thing is complete crap. The matches aren't good. Her character has just been completely terribly booked. That's not all her fault. She's just not a good heel. She just does not work well as a heel, so that didn't really work. For ones I thought wouldn't work but did, Sami Zayn is just a natural babyface. He's been an amazing heel. He's getting a little annoying. I don't think he should be the IC champion right now. First of all, he's not even there, but he was booked so terribly that it's hard to take him seriously. But he's been a better heel than I ever thought he would be. Pac, when he went heel in AEW, whatever, in WWE, before he became a heel in AEW, he was the heel first in WWE. Wasn't sure what to think about that when he became the king of the cruiserweights. It turned into an amazing run for him. That was an amazing run that really did, a lot of justice and a lot of goodwill towards his career, giving him a lot more longevity and a lot more, depth as a performer, as opposed to someone who just does flips, Johnny Gargano's heel runs have been very good. Someone I didn't think that would do well as a babyface or as a heel, but did. Britt Baker from recently as well. I think she's done very well for herself as a heel. I thought she was a natural babyface, but the whole dentist thing just screams heel. And she's knocked it out of the park. So those are a few. At Colin_McAndrew from Twitter, thoughts on Dark Side of the Ring? It's a great show. I love the show. I just watched the latest episode last night on Herb Abrams. It's so... First of all, I never knew anything of the UWF. I'm sure I've heard of it maybe once or twice before. Never really knew the full story, or at least from what I can recall. And I thought that whole episode last night was fascinating. One of the best yet. I thought it was wild, it was wacky, it was crazy, unbelievable at points, but it was entirely, fact. It was all factual. Very good stuff there. Enjoyed that episode. So, I thought it was a very good episode. I thought that episode was great. All the episodes are good to great. I have yet to see a bad one. I have yet to see one that falls below my expectations. Last week's on, who was it? The John Stossel, David Schultz one was great. Like I said earlier, I interviewed Eddie Mansfield. That's coming up tomorrow on Wrestle Rant Radio. A bit of an interesting character. Everyone has different thoughts on Eddie Mansfield, but I thought he was awesome when he talked to me, and we had a great chat, so he will have the chance to explain some of his comments made on the episode, including that Abraham Lincoln line, which turned my head as much as it did everyone else's. But he does elaborate on what that line meant tomorrow on Wrestle Rant Radio, so check that out. But overall, it's a great show. If you have yet to check out the show or any episode of it, definitely do so. The Benoit one is a great place to start because the full thing is on YouTube. I think the Bruiser Brody one is on YouTube too. But check them out right now on Vice or YouTube, whatever. They're all very good shows. At noob_n_co1991, what do you think should happen in the men's and women's Money in the Bank ladder matches? Will we see someone fall off of the rooftop of WWE headquarters or a brawl in Vince's office? I have no idea what to expect, and that's why I'm looking forward to it. As I've said before, it could be a complete clusterfuck for all we know. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. They have a chance to really innovate and make things interesting. And I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what's going to happen. They should at least keep the pace going and not, have long periods of nothingness like we saw in Edge and Orton in WrestleMania. But other than that, I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. And should someone fall off the rooftop? No, I'm going to say no to that. This isn't WCW. Could they make it like, I know it's pre-taped and whatever, so they can make it look fine. I just don't think anyone's going to want to fall off of a rooftop, to be honest with you. I just don't see that happening. I think that's just too insane. They can have people jump off of signs and all this other crazy shit. Jumping off of a building, leave that to the Joey Janela independent wrestling bullshit. A brawl in Vince's office would be cool, though. While he's in there, would be even better. At Scarlet1 from Twitter, best and worst of the Wednesday Night Wars number 29. I forgot to write down what happened on each episode, to be honest with you. I completely forgot. But I thought both episodes last week were good. I thought Cody and Darby had a really good match last week. I thought the Lance Archer, Dustin Rhodes match was very good as well. The Britt Baker stuff was awesome. That's really all I can remember from Dynamite last week. The squash matches I'm not a big fan of. I thought the Best Friends no DQ match was also a lot of fun. The Bubbly Bunch was probably the best thing on the entire episode for me. I thought that was great. All the cameos from Lou Ferrigno and Silent Bob, Jade and Silent Bob, And even his own father, Jericho's own father, Ted Irvine, was in the, the famous hockey player as part of the Rangers, was in the Bubbly Bunch as well. He made a cameo in the, what was it called? The Manitoba Melee. Just pure comedy, pure silliness, and I loved every minute of it. For NXT, I thought NXT was a very good show last week. Keith Lee and Damian Priest, a very good main event for the NXT North American Championship. I like Candice LeRae's reinvention as a heel. Her re-debut as a heel I thought was good against Kacy Catanzaro. The promos I thought were well done. I thought the interim NXT Cruiserweight Championship matches with El Hijo del Fantasma and Isaiah Swerve Scott, and then Drake Maverick and Tony Nese were very good. I'm trying to think of what else. Charlotte and Mia Yim was also a good match, too. So, yeah, I enjoyed both shows last week. I think tonight's going to be equally entertaining based off what's on tap. I will be watching NXT first. NXT, I do think, is the better lineup on paper. So I will be watching that one first. But I'm looking forward to watching Dynamite as well, their first live show in quite some time. At Scarlet, I'm sorry, they already, that was their question. Their second question, did you hear about Kevin Owens and Jimmy Uso being injured? I did. That is very unfortunate. Jimmy, it's not said what he has. I think Owens suffered a broken ankle. He shouldn't be out for much longer, which is good. I think he wanted to stay home anyway, I think is what he said. So even if he wasn't hurt, he probably wouldn't be on Raw regardless. Although I kind of get the feeling that he may have been because he won at WrestleMania. But then again, Edge did too, and that's just a different story because Edge is more of a part-timer than Owens. Anyway, so Owens should be back soon. Jimmy Uso might be out upwards of 9 months, from 6 to 9 months with some sort of an ACL injury, it's believed to be. That really sucks because they just came back. The Usos were out for like half of a year, and now they're gone again. That really sucks. That SmackDown Tag Team division is really going to suffer. And it's not like, Morrison got hurt, Miz can do his own thing. Jey Uso ain't doing shit. He ain't doing his own thing. He's a glorified tag team competitor. He can't do anything else. You just can't push Jey on his own. Maybe you can push Jimmy with Naomi, maybe, but definitely not Jey on his own. That just doesn't make any sense. So that really sucks. What did you make of Matt Riddle's backstage heat? Or what do you make of Matt Riddle's backstage heat, quote unquote? They linked to an article talking about, I read this the other day, about how he met with Vince at the headquarters in his office, about how, they brought up the heat and I guess future plans for Matt. I don't know if they're going to bring him up to the main roster anytime soon. He is still one half of the NXT Tag Team Champions, so I assume not. But still, I think for Matt, he kind of laid it out exactly how I thought it was and how we all kind of expected it to be, with him having heat, not from officials, which I never really thought was the case anyway, unless he was just unprofessional backstage or he was constantly smoking, whatever. What I always figured and what he confirmed in that interview, and he could be bullshitting, was that he has heat with the fellow talent, who he says, can't take a joke or, can't believe a work or whatever. I'm not sure he's talking about Brock or Goldberg. I'm thinking he's talking about people also with the PC, also in NXT, that wouldn't give him rides and shit. There were reports about that about like 6 months to a year ago. So, I entirely believe that, but, if he had serious heat, he would not be one half of the NXT Tag Team Champions right now. And he's also too talented to be held down. He could be on the main roster, but in NXT, you can't just bury the guy. They've put way too much into this guy, and he's way too popular to just de-push him because he has backstage heat from the boys. Like, who cares? Scarlet One's next question, have you heard about ACH addressing his quote-unquote meltdown from last year? Funnily enough, out of everything you asked me about this week, that was the one thing I did not hear about because I could not give two fucks anymore about ACH, and I know I'm not the only one. It's so funny you mention that because I literally just said to Alexis, and she said the same thing to me after I said this, what the hell happened to ACH? We thought about it for like 10 seconds and then we moved on. Because who the fuck cares? Listen, I'm a big ACH fan. I think the guy is very good as a wrestler, but that meltdown was just embarrassing. Whether he has mental issues or not, it doesn't matter. I know a lot of people who have anxiety and depression. They don't go on Twitter and just blast everybody. I'm not even talking about blasting WWE. What they did was kind of dumb. But like blasting Jay Lethal for absolutely no reason. That came completely out of nowhere and so unprofessional. We talked about it here on the show before. I'm not gonna stand for it, but I can't condone that personally. I just thought it was embarrassing. The guy was like, "Oh, I'm gonna leave and go do this in the independent scene and go do well." And the guy, quit wrestling completely. He quit wrestling, came back, quit it again. We haven't heard from him since. Who fucking cares, dude? Who gives a shit about ACH? I read all the headlines. I read all the interviews that you guys talk about and ask me about here on the show. before you even asked me about them. I did not hear about this one bit, and I'm not surprised. He's so irrelevant. I mean, he tried to get his time in the sun by, he had a very promising career in NXT. They fucking pushed him to win the tournament. That was one thing he forgot to mention in that interview, from what I can recall. All he talked about the smiling thing. Okay, who cares, dude? They told you to smile. Who gives a shit? Who cares? That's not racism at all. I mean, anyway, that's a whole other issue. But, yeah, no, I didn't really read that until you linked me to the article, and then I just immediately stopped caring 10 seconds later. Scarlet One's next question. Have you heard about Dianna Perazzo's comments regarding NXT being a, quote, culture of you're grateful for what you get and you don't ask for more, unquote? Yeah, I saw that interview. I mean, I've talked about this before with RJ. I like Dianna Perazzo, and I think she's right. I think it is that way there. I mean, I don't work there, so I don't know. But you didn't say it here, but she said it in the interview where she felt like they weren't maximizing her potential. Like, when you talk about your own potential, it makes you sound like a fucking moron. Like, it sounds like you have a very highly inflated opinion of yourself. I'm not saying she's not good, because Dianna Perazzo is very good. They absolutely should have done more with Dianna Perazzo. But, I mean, that's always been the culture there, right? I mean, that's why Sami Callihan left 5 years ago. No shit, that's the culture there. I don't know. I'm sure she knew people who worked there. That's what I don't really understand. Like, I feel like everyone knows how it is there. And listen, if you want to work there and you're willing to put up with it, that's completely fine. Like, I think that's okay. Not to say that you shouldn't be complaining. But I feel like she got there in 2018. It's not like she's been there for 10 years and that was before everything, I don't know, before the culture changed or whatever. It's been like that since day one. So, I mean, this is not breaking news. I mean, Moxley said the same thing. So, I mean, what do you expect? If she was a top talent, that's one thing. But, like, Dianna Perazzo was never going to win the NXT Women's Championship. So, again, I'm not really sure what she was expecting when they signed her. It was her dream to go. She tried it. Didn't work. She left. That's it. There's really not much of a story there, to be honest with you. Could they have done more with her? Absolutely. Am I super bummed that she got let go like the same way that EC3 did, who they completely buried? No, not really. So, I don't know. That's not really breaking news to me. I thought her comments, those comments were expected. The comments about, they didn't maximize my full potential was like very cringeworthy. Very cringeworthy. It's like, listen, I don't know if it's your place to talk about your own potential. Leave that to everyone else. And then their final question here. Have you heard about Florida's decision to reopen business places at 25% capacity and how it means WWE will use active crowds again in the summer? And that's not confirmed. I think Solomonster was talking about it and how the report wasn't entirely accurate. I'm not sure if it, first of all, pertains to wrestling. Second of all, it's going to take a while for that to happen, and it ain't going to happen next week, as the report indicated. Because a lot of dirt sheets were running with this, and I don't know. I find it very hard to believe that's going to be happening anytime soon. If the summer may happen, it is currently May. It may happen by July or August. I don't think SummerSlam happens with fans. I just don't see that happening. I want to be optimistic and say it will. I don't think it does. I don't think it's happening at the TD Garden, for one thing. It may happen at the PC or down in Florida somewhere. Definitely not in Boston. It's still pretty bad up here, unfortunately. I hate to say. But yeah, I did hear about that. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. You won't see fans in the crowd for at least another month. At least. At this point, they're planning on them not running any more shows until the summer. So I did hear about that. It's worth keeping an eye on. I just don't see it happening anytime soon. And the final question comes from @misdemeanor6 from Twitter. Who do you think will be the first wrestler to jump from AEW to WWE? That's a great question. You know, like Big Show. Was it Big Show? No, X-Pac was probably the first one to be the first major jump anyway, from WCW to WWE. That was the first big jump. Right after WrestleMania, 14 in 98. He came back from, he was in WWE previously, went to WCW, had a good little career for himself, came back to WWE as part of DX. I'm trying to think of anyone else that could be like the X-Pac. Jericho, I feel like, is going to be there for the long haul. Let's look quickly at the AEW roster. Let's see, I probably should have pulled this up before, but hey, I'm completely unprepared, so what else is new? List of all Elite Wrestling personnel. You know, there's not. I was thinking about that a while ago. Like, I'm thinking, like, who could be that person? I don't know. Definitely no one from, like, the inner circle, not the inner circle, but the Elite. Like, they're going to be there for a long time. The company's built around them. I'm trying to think of people who are like underutilized who can come over to WWE. I don't know. Maybe Luchasaurus if they make a big enough get for him, of like they really try to get him, maybe. But I feel like he'll be there for the long haul too. Britt Baker, maybe. Like, she's really treated as a top star in AEW, so probably not. But I could see her jumping ship to be with her boyfriend, Adam Cole. So maybe, I don't think it'll be him. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I'm looking at the roster, and no one really screams to me like, oh, they would leave because they're not happy there and they're going to go to WWE. It might very well be someone that we're not even thinking of. Matt Hardy might have a short stint and then go back to WWE. That's possible. Jericho, I don't think he'll be there. I don't think he'll be, I think he will be there, rather, for a while. I don't know. Brody Lee just got there, so he ain't living anytime soon. He ain't leaving anytime soon. Not the Butcher and the Blade. Not Cabana. Darby Allin ain't going anywhere, I don't think. Private Party ain't going anywhere. Definitely not Jack Swagger, Jake Hager, whatever. Definitely not Jimmy Havoc or Joey Janela. John Moxley ain't going anywhere. I'm not sure. I really don't know. If I had to take a guess, probably Luchasaurus. Maybe Matt Hardy. But that's about it. I'm looking at the women here. Maybe Britt Baker. Looking at the women, I'm not sure. Who would they even want from this crop of women, though? I don't feel like they would sign any of these people. I don't think they would sign Riho or Nyla Rose or maybe Chris Statlander. I'll say Chris Statlander, but that's about it. There really isn't anyone else. I feel like everyone else, they just got there for one thing. But I feel like everyone else doesn't scream to me like, oh, they're being underutilized or they need to leave. Maybe Jack Evans and Helico, they're kind of underutilized in AEW, but I don't see them going to WWE. I feel like if they were going to, they would have been there by now. So, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I don't really have a good answer for you, but those are a few names that come to mind. But that's going to do it, guys, for today's episode of #AskGSM 336 for May 6, 2020. And be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So with all that being said, guys, enjoy Money in the Bank this weekend. I know I will. I'm looking forward to it. Be sure to tune into Wrestle Rant Radio tomorrow for my exclusive interview with Dark Side of the Ring star Eddie Mansfield, as well as RJ and I giving you guys our preview of Money in the Bank. Next week is a very special star that you will definitely know. That's coming up next week in Wrestle Rant Radio exclusive interview. And then in 2 weeks' time, my exclusive interview with Impractical Joker star, Misery Index star, Brian Q. Quinn. That's coming up in 2 weeks on Wrestle Rant Radio. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.